In India, elephants are regarded as sacred beings and symbolize the life-giving force of nature. Ancient civilizations worshipped this great beast as the Mount of Indra, the storm god, bringer of the annual monsoon to the Indian countryside. Domesticated here since the Indus Valley civilization as far back as 4000 BC, elephants have always played an important role in Indian life. In a land where, perhaps more than anywhere else on earth, culture and nature are closely intertwined. With the second largest number of species of any country in the world, India is a wildlife treasure trove that's relatively unstudied and unknown. The Indo-Gangetic Plain, watered by the Ganges and other major rivers, is particularly rich in animal and plant species, many of them, like the Indian one-horned rhinoceros, unique to the subcontinent. The plain is the most central of India's four main ecological zones. To the south lies the dry Deccan Plateau and the forests of the western Ghats Mountains. To the west are the deserts and semi-deserts of Rajasthan. To the north are the Himalayan mountains, giving rise to the 5 great rivers that flow down to the Indo-Gangetic Plain. The area on the Himalayan edge of the plain, the subtropical Terai district, is a mixture of swampy grasslands and rich deciduous forest. The Terai is crisscrossed by rivers and streams, which are vitally important watering places for birds like storks, egrets and cormorants. The Ganges gharial, a species of freshwater crocodile unique to this part of the world, normally feeds on fish. But when birds stray too close for comfort, the gharial is not averse to an occasional change of diet. Gharials inhabit deep pools in the big rivers of the plain and bask and nest on sandbanks. They are thought to have been on Earth for over 100 million years, dating back to the dinosaurs and beyond. The male can be differentiated from the female by the pronounced knob on its snout. Like all reptiles, they are cold-blooded and derive energy from basking in the sun. Gharials are almost exclusively fish eaters, and the long, narrow jaws are designed for this purpose. Formerly abundant in these northern rivers, there are now only a few hundred of these timid, extraordinary creatures surviving in the wild. In the deciduous forest nearby, cheetah, or spotted deer, the commonest of India's deer species, graze in the morning sun. These rich sal forests once stretched the entire length of the Indo-Gangetic Plain and contain an enormous diversity of species. At the top of the food chain are the carnivores, and this region is known for its leopards. The most adaptable of India's large cats, the leopard is a proven survivor and is found in almost every kind of ecosystem. Excellent climbers, they're as much at home hunting in the treetops as on the ground, feeding on a wide variety of animals, from birds and monkeys to small deer, wild pigs and rodents. These young ones will soon be on their own, for the mother leopard generally only stays with her cubs for the first year. Already, though, they will have learned to hunt by accompanying their mother on kills, and will have no difficulty finding prey in the forest. The Indo-Gangetic Plain was also where ancient Hindu civilizations and beliefs first evolved. Varanasi, the city of the god Shiva, has been a center of learning for over 2,000 years and a major destination for both Hindu and Buddhist pilgrims, for the Buddha also gave his first sermon nearby. Hindus come here to pray to Surya, the sun god, at dawn, and to bathe in the Ganges, the most sacred of all rivers. Rites that date back to the very origins of Hinduism, when Aryan nomads swept down from the Russian steppes to colonize India in 1700 BC. As well as coming here to pray, thousands of Indians come here every year to die, for Varanasi is believed to be a particularly auspicious place to pass into the next life. Hundreds are cremated here every day, and their ashes scattered in the Ganges. Lining the ghats and side streets of Varanasi are stalls selling the paraphernalia of Hindu tourism. On sale everywhere for a few rupees are the modern-day equivalents of the ancient Aryan carvings of the gods. The images are pop art, the rounded, idealized faces reminiscent of those found in poster advertisements and Bombay movies. And many of the gods are depicted with their animal vehicles and associations, as described in Hindu mythology. All the major deities are here. The great god Shiva, with his headdress of snakes. The equally important Vishnu, in his man-lion reincarnation. Hanuman, the warrior monkey god. Sitting by the side of Shiva and his wife, their elephant-headed son, the popular Ganesh. And riding a lion, the mother goddess in her most fierce manifestation, Durga, slaying the demon. Calcutta, each October, over 1,000 clay statues of Durga riding her lion are carried down to the Ganges Delta to be ceremoniously cast into the water at the festival of Durga Puja. Having spent 10 days in the realm of man, the mother goddess is symbolically returned to the earth from whence she came, together with other popular deities like Ganesh, in celebration of the arrival and passing of the annual monsoon and the renewal of the fertility of the land. Even in the outskirts of this mega city, the traditional Hindu reverence for nature is alive. North of the Indo-Gangetic Plain lie the highest, largest and youngest mountain range in the world, the Himalayas, forming the Indian border with China. A lammergeier, a giant bearded vulture, soars in the silent sky, surveying the mountains they call the roof of the world. With a wingspan over 8 feet long, these enormous birds can soar up to heights of 23,000 feet. Hindus believe this is where the world was created, and the peaks are revered as the birthplace and abode of the Hindu pantheon of gods. On these holy mountains, the holiest place of all is Gomukh, meaning cow's mouth, where a wall of ice, a constantly moving glacier in the shadow of the mountain, gives birth to the sacred river Ganga, or Ganges. This gentle, icy stream will grow to become the greatest river in India, winding its way down through the mountains to the Indo-Gangetic Plain, on a 2,000-mile journey to the sea. Camped out on the mountain, holy men, or sadhus, live beside the source, following a life of asceticism with no worldly possessions. Their hair is long and matted, and they propitiate their adopted deity, Shiva, who, with Brahma and Vishnu, make up the triad, the 3 main gods in the Hindu cosmos. According to Hindu mythology, Shiva's role in the creation was to split the Ganga into 7 head streams and allow them to flow down his locks and water the world. Altitude here determines vegetation. Below the rock desert of the high Himalaya, the layers of alpine vegetation, a coniferous zone, and a rich belt of deciduous forest, which harbors a variety of wildlife. There are a great number of birds, the most spectacular of which is the monal pheasant, which migrates down to these lower forests every winter. The shy and diminutive musk deer also inhabits the scrubland and wooded slopes below the alpine zone. An abdominal gland on this deer gives us musk, a scent much sought after in the perfume houses of Europe. As a result, it's been hunted and persecuted by man for centuries and is now an endangered species. The male does not carry antlers, but has evolved instead fang-like incisor teeth, which it uses to fight courtship battles. Himalayan brown bears generally live at higher levels, but they sometimes come down at the onset of winter to feed prior to hibernation. The other forest animals are nervous, but in fact the bear poses little threat to either the deer or the monkeys, being almost entirely vegetarian in its diet, feeding mainly on berries, roots and leaves in the higher alpine zone. The common langur is found all over India, often in social groups consisting of a single male and several females and young. It's also called the Hanuman langur, after the warrior monkey god from the Hindu epic, the Ramayana, and like all monkeys, is revered as sacred. As winter falls, the people of the Himalayas pay homage to the goddess Ganga, spirit of the Ganges, and another of the many manifestations of the mother goddess, wife of Shiva. Near Gangotri, close to the source of the Ganges, an icon of the goddess is carried down on the eve of Dussehra, the main Hindu harvest festival, celebrating once again the passing of the monsoon, the bringing in of the crops, and the sustained fertility of the earth. These mountains have been farmed for centuries on extensive, carefully maintained terraces by a people who have learned to live in harmony with nature. The natural world gives them their food, their fodder, their water, and their fuel. And this means they are self-sufficient in all their basic needs. And here, perhaps more than anywhere else in India, there is a pervading reverence for nature that finds expression in great public festivals like Dussehra and in the more personal daily rituals of the people. The essence of the Hindu view of the world is that all life is sacred, and central to this reverence for nature is the concept of reincarnation. Hindus believe that the soul migrates from species to species, and thus man can become beast in a future life. The great god Vishnu symbolizes this, being reborn 9 times in various forms as a fish, a tortoise, a boar, a man-lion, and so on. No strict Hindu will therefore harm any living creature, as all are part of the constantly turning wheel of life. By the time it reaches Rishikesh, the Ganges has dropped 10,000 feet and will only fall another 1,000 feet in the whole of the rest of its course. Rishikesh is where the Ganges leaves the Himalayan foothills behind and is another major center for the study of Hinduism and for pilgrimages. Every year, thousands of people come here from all over India to pay homage to the sacred Ganga. The feeding of fish is part of the ritual, the fish being the first reincarnation of Vishnu and a source of life. Nearby, holy cows wander at will. Revered as a symbol of the mother goddess, the cow is the most sacred animal in India, and no strict Hindu will ever eat beef. the day the mother goddess is worshipped, the festival of Dussehra, an important date in the Hindu calendar and celebrated in different ways all over the country. After dark, the climax to Dussehra is held beside the river, when the mother goddess, Ganga, Parvati, Durga, wife of Shiva and mother of the Himalayas, is worshipped. And lighted floats set adrift on the Ganges. There's offerings to the goddess and the river, and there's thanksgiving for the continued bounty of nature that supports all life. To the far west of the Indo-Gangetic Plain, bordering with Pakistan, lies the Thar Desert, the second largest desert in Asia, and the most populated in the world, with a surprising variety of wildlife. Many animals have adapted to the high temperatures and lack of food or water, like the pale hedgehog. A monitor lizard, hit by a car, is a bonanza. Normally, this omnivorous creature survives on a diet of insects, scorpions, and small mammals, so this is a real feast. Rainfall here is sparse and seasonal, and wildlife can only survive where there are pockets of surface water and scrub vegetation, to the east and south of the Thar Desert itself. Spines and waxy leaves help plants to retain moisture, and this time of year, after the monsoon, there is a short period when the desert blooms. Where there are pools of surface water, grazing animals like wild ass and blackbuck are to be found, often congregating in large herds for security. The blackbuck, once common all over India, is now confined to this last inhospitable semi-desert habitat, where it's relatively safe from persecution. At the waterholes themselves, migrant birds pause to rest and feed, or, as in the case of these pelicans, they settle here for the winter to breed. Their beaks adapted into pouches for holding fish, pelicans often feed and fly collectively, soaring high on the powerful upward thermals of the desert. dry western states of Rajasthan and Gujarat are strongholds of Jainism, an offshoot of Hinduism that takes reverence for nature to an extreme. The temple complex at Palitana is the most important Jain center in India. Jains, like Buddhists, believe in the code of non-violence to all living creatures, as the soul is deemed to migrate from one level of species to another. To harm another being would lead to the burdening of the soul and prevent the attainment of eternal happiness. To avoid accidentally inhaling insects, therefore, Jains wear masks on their faces. As well as this, their diet and whole way of life is severely restricted by the adherence to the non-violent ethic, preventing them from eating meat, fish, or even root vegetables. In more eastern parts of Rajasthan, the scrub semi-desert vegetation gives way to patches of dry, deciduous forest. Once again, water is vital for life, and grazing herds of deer are drawn to the ponds and lakes of the forest. Water is also important for the tiger. With plentiful prey, forests that are easy to hunt in, and ponds to cool off in, this is ideal tiger country. The fight is not for real. Two fully grown cubs have decided to have a tug of war over a newly killed cheetah. From the ramparts of an ancient fort, the sound of the peacock echoes around the forest. The national bird of India and vehicle of the goddess Saraswati, the peacock is one of many animals revered in Rajasthan and is said, amongst other things, to symbolize the coming of the rains and to be the guardian of the gateway to paradise. But in the highly traditional Rajput societies in this part of India, animal worship can also take extreme forms. This procession of pilgrims has come to worship an animal that lives and thrives in the temple itself. The rat is, according to mythology, the vehicle of Ganesh, the elephant-headed god, son of Shiva and Parvati. And this is the only temple dedicated to the rat in India. rats are thought to be reincarnations of the souls of humans, and people come here to pray, touch them, and even share their food. In the south of India, the post-monsoon harvest festival is called Onam, famous for its snake boat racing. This is the land of the elephant. Every village has its own temple elephants, and others are kept as working animals, most of them domesticated from the wild. Apart from the temple elephants, they are generally owned by private individuals and cared for by mahouts, who come from a tribe that has been training elephants for centuries. As well as supposedly bringing good fortune, elephants are kept in order to work the forests and as status symbols in this conservative part of the country where Hindu traditions are still strong. Behind the paddy fields and palm trees of the coastal belt are the Western Ghats, one of the most important wildlife habitats in India. In the valleys between the mountains are unique areas of tropical, moist, evergreen forest called shola forests. As well as acting as a sponge for the heavy monsoonal rains, these rich forests are home to an enormous diversity of species, some of them unique to this part of India. A golden tree snake, or flying snake, one of the most beautiful in India. Termites, searching for food on the moist, damp floor of the forest. A great Indian hornbill, feeding its mate by regurgitating berries. Sealed up inside the tree by a wall of dung and mud to protect her from predators, she won't be freed until her chicks are hatched and able to fly. And high in the top of the rainforest canopy, one of the rarest and most endangered of all India's animal species, the spectacular lion-tailed macaque. These bushy-maned monkeys are only found in this shrinking area of rainforest in the Western Ghats, and there are probably only a few hundred left in the wild. Less gregarious than other monkey species, they live in the very highest branches of the forest, feeding on a diet of fruit and berries. monsoon is derived from an Arabic word meaning season and has come to mean the season of the rains. This part of India has some of the heaviest monsoonal rainfall in the country, most of it falling between June and September. On an average monsoonal day, 10 times as much rain falls here as on a typical rainy day in Europe. But after the parched heat of the preceding months, it's welcomed here and all over India as the bringer of life. The Western Ghats act as a rain trap, and much less rain falls to the east of these ranges. High in the grasslands above the shola forests, on the hills called the Nilgiris, yet another rare and endangered species grazes on the moist pasture land. This is the Nilgiri tahr, a goat-like animal well adapted to life on the high slopes of mountain ranges. Social animals, they sometimes congregate in herds of up to 100, the males segregated from the females except during the rutting season. Once common, there are now only 2,000 Nilgiri tahr left, clinging precariously to life on these rain-swept mountain slopes. The monsoon is caught and held by the forests of the Western Ghats, and the water released over the year to the irrigated valleys and plains below, guaranteeing a good crop of rice. In the bamboo forests beside the rivers, another rare monkey, the Nilgiri langur, tucks into its favorite food. Smaller than lion-tailed macaques, they inhabit the same evergreen shola forests and are therefore equally endangered by habitat destruction. Below them, the creature from which all domesticated chickens evolved, the jungle fowl. This area also contains India's second largest population of Asian elephants, who migrate seasonally along the Western Ghats, grazing the deciduous forest as they go. The elephants is a matriarchal society, and the leader of a group is generally the dominant female, with bulls left to live bachelor lives, only joining the group when a cow comes on heat. Elephants generally love to be in the water, but for one young calf, bath time is a less appealing option. At Mahabalipuram, south of Madras, sacred animals stand guard at ancient temples carved from a single stone. Nearby, the creation myth is depicted on an immense cliff face carving. Snakes, or nagas, rise up in springs from the underworld, while the great god Shiva stands waiting. And the Ganges flows down from the Himalayas, bringing life to the earth. As part of the Onam festival, temple elephants are brought down to the marketplaces to be stroked, fed and worshipped by the people of South India. Afterwards, they move off, bedecked in gold and jewels, to take part in temple ceremonies all over the region. The climax of the festival is a week of traditional music and dance. Onam is the harvest festival of South India. The celebration of nature and a successful monsoon are at the heart of the festivities. But the only animals in the final parade are people wearing body paint, hundreds of dancers cavorting to a thunderous beat, painted as tigers, lions and leopards, a bizarre modern interpretation of the tribal tiger dance. Further along the eastern coast of peninsular India, in Orissa, a nocturnal invasion has begun. Several hundred Olive-Ridley turtles have come ashore to lay their eggs. After digging a pit in the sand, the mother turtle's exertions begin. The eggs are soft-shelled and will lie buried here for 50 days. But in fact, these mothers are latecomers. Exactly 50 days ago, 300,000 mother turtles laid their eggs on this same narrow sandbank, and tonight is the night they hatch. Some inherited instinct tells the baby turtles to head for the brightest spot, in most cases the horizon over the sea. As dawn breaks, the wheel of life turns and turns again. Not all the hatchlings, or indeed the mothers, will make it back to the waves. To Hindus, this is not death, but birth, the start of a new cycle of life. Traditionally, nature is revered in this country, but can the turtles, and wild India as a whole, survive the man-made pressures that have built up over the centuries and are now threatening to sweep them away?